Look at what we're getting. Look. Look, this filter was on 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, this is what they're sending for me as water in St. Lucie. On the incoming water into my house from the Barbados Water Authority, and this is what the Barbados Water is sending for me. We paying a water every month, every single month, with taxes. I don't want to talk the water bill, and this is what we getting drink.
Testing, testing. Good evening, Barbados. Tonight we turn our focus to St. Lucie, a community forced to live with brown, discolored water in their homes, water that residents are told is safe. Yet no family should have to wonder if the water they drink, cook with, or bathe their children in is truly clean. The people of St. Lucie are not asking for special treatment. They are asking for what every Barbadian deserves: dignity, fairness, and representation that works. Leadership is tested not when life is easy, but when the people you serve face hardship. When a member of parliament stays silent, when a government official tells residents that unsafe water is acceptable, leadership has failed. Tonight we ask the question, what does it really mean to represent the people? Because representation that works isn't about press releases, photo ops, or convenient appearances. It's about presence, action, and accountability. Over the next 2 hours, we will examine the water crisis in St. Lucie, the impact on families, the fears of leadership, and the standards of governance that the people of Barbados truly deserve. I am joined by a panel of experts and leaders who will guide us through these issues, from the environmental causes to the legal rights of residents to the public health implications. Together, we will explore what it takes to be a representative who truly stands with the people. Because the tap in St. Lucie may be brown, but the real drought is one of representation. And tonight we make it clear representation that works isn't afraid to face the people. Joining me tonight are Mr. Paul Gibson, the spokesperson on environmental and the candidate for St. James Central. Paul brings insight on environmental management and the challenges behind St. Lucy's water crisis.
Good evening.
To Paul's left, we have Mr. Jason Phillips, an attorney at law and the candidate for St. Peter. Jason will guide us through residents' legal rights and government accountability. Welcome, Jason.
Good evening, Barbados, and especially good evening to the good people of St. Peter.
To Jason's left, we have our Senator Andrew Worrell, spokesperson on health and wellness, and the candidate for St. Michael's Central. Andrew will discuss the health implications of unsafe water.
Good evening, Melissa, and welcome, and good evening to the DLP family and to the constituents of St. Michael's Central.
All right, gentlemen, let's begin by examining what the residents in St. Lucy are experiencing. And first, we're going to start with a video, the one with Ryan Strong.
Barbadians to drink sewage water. Barbados Finance Minister Ryan Strawn at the IMF meeting.
And I think it's important to recognize that as a small country, we are faced with issues in relation to drought as well. We issue in relation to food security. And therefore, as part of one of the critical priorities that we are using is to upgrade our sewage plants to tertiary, to be able to reuse that water as part of our process to replenish our aquifers, because we don't have any rivers or any such thing. We rely solely on rainfall and having the aquifers fill in order to manage our water. There's some desalination capacity as well.
All right, so Paul, as our spokesperson for our environment, can you explain the causes of the brown, discolored water and why this has persisted?
Well, I will start by saying thank you again for being having me on DLP TV, because I think that we're onto something as DLP. What we're discovering regarding this whole water issue is, unlike the Democratic Labour Party, where during 2017, I remember there was a major project that was done where all the pipes from St. Philip all the way through to Atlantis, those 80 to 100-year-old pipes, were all decaying and breaking down and so on. And I remember the minister at the time of water took the time and the funds and began replacing all the pipes from St. Philip all the way through to St. John and coming to the Atlantis Hotel.
Yeah.
And I remember the Santia Bradshaw saying in the Senate, in the Reality House, that the DLP didn't do anything with water or with pipes. And I was just waiting for the opportunity to declare and to remind Santia Bradshaw that we took the bull by the horns and began a process of pipe replacement, because the pipes in Barbados are over between 80 and 100 years old. The old black metal pipes. And they're all rusted, broken, decayed, fractured, and so on. So I'm beginning to believe that one of the reasons is that all of the pipes have not been changed in the water network. That's the first thing. The second thing is the ones that are broken are given access to silt and to dirt and so on. And I do not believe that the Barbados Water Authority actually knows where that silt is coming into the pipe. Because if the water was coming from a source that was pure and clear, there would be no silt in there. So obviously, mud silt is finding its way into the channels of the pipe. And that's the second thing. The third thing is that I remember seeing in 2022 a biological report for the water in St. in St. Lucie.
Mhm.
And the water had above levels in Pseudomonas aeruginosa, E. coli, and all these different organisms. And at the time, I showed a colleague of mine, I said, look, you're aware that the water in St. Lucie had these kind of levels?
Mhm.
And so the question that someone asked is, where exactly is the Barbados Water Authority testing the water? And I'll get back to that a little later in the program.
No problem.
Yes.
We have an early question here for you, Paul,
Yes.
from Esther Blue.
Yes.
When the people of Paikarna turn on their taps, the water is brown.
Mhm. Yes. That's her statement.
A statement, sir.
Yes, and it's true. When I heard this week the representative from the Barbados Water Authority declaring that the water is safe to drink, I saw it. I actually looked at it. I
Mhm.
played it several times, and I said to myself, a definition of water is that it is colorless, odorless. These are the basic definitions.
Mhm.
At high school, we all learned what the definition of water was, right? Colorless
Mhm.
and odorless and clear, transparent. So when a representative who is supposed to be a professional, I'm not saying that he's not. The only question I would ask him is he testing the water in the tank or the source where the water is coming from?
Mhm.
Or is he testing it at the taps where Barbadians are drinking water? Because when we speak to people in St. Lucie, we are hearing them say that the water has an odor. We are hearing them say that the water has a color.
That is very visible.
That is very visible. You look, if you're drinking Moby or Monge or something like that. And if you were to take that water and put it anywhere on the earth, I would say that anywhere on the earth, in a room of dignitaries, and say, here is a clean glass of water, I'm sure that they would be furrowing their brows and looking at it and saying, what do you want me to do with that? Because you're seeing silt, you're seeing dirt, you're seeing mud in the water. There's the issue where people are washing their clothes and the white clothes are coming out with the dirt all over it.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know if they're testing just the organisms, the bacteria and so on, or if they're testing the mineral levels of the water, iron, magnesium, sodium, because there is something to having water not with that color. Something is precipitating something out of the water. The iron levels are high, and if you have people that have hypertension, you don't want to be taking in high levels of iron like that, right? So I would ask the Barbados Water Authority to go back to the drawing board to find out exactly where along the course of the pipe that the infraction is coming, because there's obviously something wrong. There is obviously something very wrong with what is happening there.
Well, the acting CEO of Barbados Water Authority, he has stated that the water is safe to drink.
Mhm.
How does that statement affect the public's trust?
Well, I think that the lived experience of the people of St. Lucie means something. I do not think that the people in St. Lucie are lying at all. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a gentleman by the name of Mr. Brooks only last night,
Mhm.
and he was telling me about the issue that he's having. He said they cannot drink the water in St. Lucie. He says he has 2 teenage boys and he has to buy water. One of them used about 32 bottles alone, and the other one used 32 bottles. When you add the cost of just them buying water to drink, they can't drink the water. They cannot drink the water. They cannot wash clothes with the water. And the way that they're able to cook is that they get water from the same Barbados Water Authority trucks. And that is what they're using to fill the pots to cook their food. So when the deputy chief of the Barbados Water Authority is saying to the intelligent, right people of St. Lucie, where our from the father came from St. Lucie, El Barra, I believe that it's a slap in the face for the people of St. Lucie. What is he saying? Is he calling the people of St. Lucie liars? Why is it that they have given a discount in the water bill of $32 to them? What was that, by accident? Was that because it was just a figment of the imagination of the Barbados Water Authority? It came from somewhere. The people are under pressure. I would further say that the Democratic Labour Party believes that until this issue is fully resolved, there's no reason why the people of St. Lucie should be paying a water bill, because they're not getting value for money. But that's a different area. One of my colleagues will probably look at the legality of that.
Yes, we'll get to that.
Yes.
And we have another question here. We have seen an increase in thyroid problems in Barbados. Does this brown water have the capacity to affect thyroid health?
I'm so happy you asked. I mentioned earlier that they talk about the pathology or the pathogens or the bacteria or viruses or whatever found in the water. They're saying that is negligible to very little. That's what they're saying. We, the public, have not seen those reports, and this is something that we should be asking for. That's the first thing. We also want to know where along the tap are they checking, which brings us to the fact, the second point I made earlier, that there are breaches in the taps. And if there are breaches in the taps from the ocean, if there are breaches in the taps from in the hills, from the clay soils or whatever, you can have an infiltration of iodines and so on into the water. You could have displacement of chlorine and iodine. And these are levels that they also need to be checking. The chloride levels, the iodide levels, because they would have an inextricable association between the thyroid function of, which the thyroid, as you know, and just for those viewers, the thyroid is responsible for metabolism. And that is how fast your body breaks down food and the muscles and so on, energy and so on. And if it is too high, you have a problem. You'll be going to your surgeon and seeing Dr. Chris Maynard and the other specialists to look at what's happening there, the overactive thyroids. And if it is not doing what it's supposed to do, you can have the reverse, where it could slow down the thyroid and so on, depending on the ionic balance of the water and so on. But I don't think that anybody is looking this far. I really don't know how much they really care, because I remember, God rest his soul, Alvin Topping, this and Shaquani Hunt. They were carrying water to the houses all across St. Lucie, because mothers were crying, and old ladies were beseeching and saying, "But I can't drink the water, I can't cook." Right? It's affecting people's health. So, by virtue of not drinking adequate levels of water, that may also have an impact on the thyroid, because people are not being able to consume the requisite amount of water that human beings are encouraged to consume. And so this is not a shabby thing. This is not a petulant child crying and saying, "Help me, help me." This is a real issue. Water is life.
All right, let's speak solutions.
How
should government action have prevented this from happening?
I'm glad you asked. I think that I believe, and this is where we shine the light. This is where the Democratic will shine their light and say, look, what if someone in this current administration would take up the plans that were left by the Democratic Labour Party to address the issue of water and so on? They would realize that a process has started in Barbados where we were doing pipe replacements in Barbados, starting in St. Phillips and coming all the way through. When we left office, that project was supposed to continue all the way up to St. Lucie. It was very strategic because you had to connect different systems and so on into one another. They had to be able to sensitize homes and residents that the water would be off for a period of time. And the techniques that were used by the Democratic Labour Party were those of pipe busting. Pipe busting is where, well, in Mississippi, what they do to go across the Mississippi River they realized that they can go through the soft mud in Mississippi and push pipes right across the river to the other side. This is the same technique that we were using here in Barbados. We were going through the soil, the limestone, and we realized that we were able to have technologies that can force the pipes through the limestone. And I'm saying that one of the solutions is that we should, with immediacy, begin to change out the pipes in that particular area that's badly affected. The second thing is you need to look at your water source. If after changing the pipes, you're still getting silt and that kind of thing in the water, there are funnels, there are reverse osmotic machines that can be used to extract silt and dirt and so on. Now, how difficult is that? And if it is such a malignant problem, which it is, you would look at the main communities that are being affected, and you would put a stopgap between the water source and that community and use an osmotic pump to clean that water. Yeah, the water not only would be pure, it would have the right ionic balance, it would be transparent, it would be odorless, it would be colorless, and it would be tasteless. And this is one of the solutions. The other solution that we can consider is the same way we have in the Brighton area a freshwater desalination plant. I will say it's a brackish water. It's not pure salt water. If it was pure salt water, we have a lot of salt coming out of it, but we don't have a lot of salt output. But in St. Lucie, we could set up such a desalination plant and usurp. It's like doing a surgery to send the flow. If you're sending blood around, you know how you do transplants or whatever, heart transplants. You can actually shunt water around the current system, come out of the system, have a desalination plant that sends water into the taps and so on of people's homes while they sort out the current problem. That's a second problem, but there's a third one, but we don't want to discuss necessarily everything here, but we want it to go to the right areas where they can have a response and have a solution to what's happening there.
When you began speaking, you said some of these pipes were in existence for like 80 to
100 years, yes.
So ideally,
yes.
How often should these pipes be changed?
The pipes, to be honest with you, those iron pipes that were made of iron, of metal, they lasted very long. They lasted from the time we were a colonial power, from way back then. And they did what they were supposed to do. The pipes that they are using now is a polyethylene pipe, a blue, thick polyethylene pipe. And once the sun can't get to it, they too can last probably up to 100 years. Very, very long. So the pipes can last long. But you don't wait till they become 80 years old to change them. You have to have a systematic, methodical plan program of pipe replacement as a part of your management system. And we're realizing now that doesn't seem to be a normal practice in Barbados. Whether painting lines in the road, replacing pipes, bus stops falling down, nobody's is systematically managing or governing Barbados in a proper way. They're getting a lot of money, but they're not doing what they're supposed to do with it.
Right. Thank you, Paul. Now we come to the legal side of things. So, Jason, residents have legal rights to safe water. Where has the MP for St. Lucie been while this continues?
Good evening again, Barbados. Good evening, Melissa. He is AWOL, absent without leave. That's what I'm going to say. Because a member of parliament must always remember, and I'm also speaking to the member of parliament for St. Peter too, because we have issues with water, not only in St. Lucie, but also in St. Peter, especially on the border with St. Lucie. First and foremost, member of parliament's obligation is to the people. People first, party second. We repeat again. Your constituents must come first, and then the party. Where we have an issue, in this case, an issue with water, and the people are crying out. They can't drink the water. They can't cook with the water. They cannot even wash their clothes with their water. And to bathe in that water, you risk your own health. And a member of parliament, whether that member of parliament is for St. Lucie or St. Peter, that member of parliament breached their trust and their obligation to their constituents.
Right, as a lawyer, Barbados is governed by laws. So are there any laws pertaining to water distribution and the rights as a citizen to clean water?
To put it in a nutshell, before going too far into the law, the government has a duty of care to provide clean, safe drinking water for its citizens. And where there's a breach of that duty of care, the government becomes negligent, or the agent for government, the Barbados Water Authority, becomes negligent. And it becomes negligent where not only there's a breach of that duty, but someone now suffers loss as a breach of that duty. For example, where it can be proven that a child or a citizen becomes sick after drinking that water, then government is negligent of not providing safe, clean water. Remember, by definition, water must be odorless, tasteless, and colorless. And what we have in St. Peter and in St. Lucie is far from clean, potable water. And it is hurtful because the citizens or the people of St. Lucie and St. Peter, not only must they pay a full water bill at the end of the month, but they also have to pay the tax at the end for garbage. Right? It is unfair. I dare say it is unconscionable. And this government, this Barbados Labour Party-led government, cannot, in good faith, give people brown water and then ask them to drink it. I think we have a video here with what coming up with the tap. And then you want to say that water is safe to drink. Well, I would say to the minister, any minister in government, come to St. Peter where the water is brown, or go to St. Lucie where the water is brown, and collect a glass of hot water and drink it in front of your constituents and tell them that it's safe. And then we may accept that gibberish. I'm very upset that a member of parliament, that is the member of parliament for St. Lucie or St. Peter, will sit in the House of Assembly and will not stand up and represent the people that he's supposed to represent. It is ridiculous. It is an embarrassment. And it's unconscionable. Members of parliament must represent the people who elected them to high office. And I will not sit idly by and say nothing. I was in deep basketball a few weeks ago, in Collins to be exact, and there's an issue with water up there. I went to a town meeting at St. Philip the Less Church, and it was said that it is safe to drink the brown water. When I asked the person that made that statement if he would give that water to his young baby, newborn baby, a baby maybe 6 months old, he tried to make me believe that he would do that. But I would be bold enough to say that I believe government is hiding behind the civil servants. Government must come out, being reactionary when there's an issue, when there's an outcry, you come and give an explanation. That is not good enough. You must be proactive with your policies and so on. The people of St. Lucie and the people of St. Peter deserve better.
All right, we have a question here from an online audience. Comrade Jason Phillips, can the people of St. Peter or St. Lucie take legal action against Barbados Water Authority for poor service?
Yes, you can. It will become like a class action suit. But then there are certain things that must be met. First of all, you must give government an opportunity to correct your mistake. You should write government. You should produce all the evidence, collect water, and have it tested independently and so on, produce the findings to the water authority. It will take some time and some money too. So, it may be best that the representative for the constituency deal with the matter. Represent your people, put policy in place to rectify the issue, to force your constituents to go to court on their own behalf when you should be acting on their behalf, Mr. Member of Parliament, is an embarrassment. And you really want replacing. Yes, to answer the question, private citizens can sue the government. Especially if they have sufficient evidence to substantiate their claim. But it will be far easier or far better for the Member of Parliament for the constituency of St. Lucie and St. Peter to hold the Barbados Labour Party-led government feet to the fire and say, listen, I represent the people of my constituency and I want better for them. And good people of St. Lucie and good people of St. Peter, if your Member of Parliament is not acting in your best interest, you know exactly what to do. Get rid of them.
We have a comment here online. The other day, I noticed that my face was itching a lot over a few days. I Googled and found out that the most likely source was water. This is not St. Lucie, but this was in Christchurch. Paul, I'm going to let you comment on it.
Yeah, that is nothing uncommon. When you have water that's in that state that it is in, and you mentioned, I like the point you made, Jason, about babies. You can't be giving babies that water because an adult may be able to rough it. I mean, when you get a certain age, you eat mud and all this kind of thing. But when you have a baby that is 2 and 3, and that, you know, normally we're in Barbados, we grow up drinking the water, right, from the tap. We would take up the hose and drink it. But that particular water is a problem. And not only do adults have issues with itching of the skin and eczema and allergic reactions and so on to the content of the water, you could actually, because the water is hard, it's not soft water. Water has a particular consistency and is constituted in a particular way for human consumption. The peripheral addition of silt, of additional chlorine, iodine, different chemicals, depending on which part of Barbados you are, because that's another thing. Clay and limestone makes the water a lot harder, and that can cause irritation and itching of the skin. It's a real thing. And so you may find, I would actually like one of our physicians in Barbados or a group of doctors to actually perform a study on the members or persons that live in St. Lucie in regards to the dermatological state, in terms of the GI state, the gastrointestinal state, the levels of blood pressure compared to the rest of Barbados. There are a number of things that I would love the doctors in Barbados to check out, because this represents, everybody's saying stuff, but like Trump said, don't take Tylenol anymore in pregnancy, but he didn't have any hard facts or data. Same here, the Barbados Water Authority is saying to us, you can drink the water. But we need hard facts and data, and we need to know the sources that water is coming from. So yes, that person needs to see the dermatologist and make sure that they're not having a reaction to the hard water and the different chemicals in the water.
All right, Jason, back to you. Representation is about action, not excuses. So as a future representative for St. Peter, how would you go about remedying this problem for your constituents?
Melissa, thank you for that question. First and foremost, you have to locate what I believe by now, government will know exactly where the water issues are, right? You have to replace the pipe. There's no two ways about that. You have to replace the pipes. Having done that, you have to, in fact, even before I move on, I will also say you need to give a grace period in paying of water bills. The water right now does not meet international standards as far as I am concerned. The water authority might say something other than that. But as far as I'm concerned, if I see water coming through the tap looking brown, I want to know if it's feces. It might not be. I want to know if it's rust. It might not be. I want to know if it's mud. It might not be. I don't know what it is, so I'm not going to drink it. So if you have discolored water coming through the taps for a period of time, if I was the minister now, or when I'm elected, I'm going to ask that people in St. Lucie and people in St. Peter be given a grace period of whatever amount of weeks or months not to pay a water bill until that problem is rectified. As minister, I will have those pipes changed out. And you know, I'm going to change them out in such a way where you fix this area because there's a burst there, and then down the road it fits another area. If you have a new pipe here and a new pipe there, the old pipes between there, because of the water pressure, will burst. I think that's part of the problem now. They're doing patchwork, and you need government to have a full structure program, right, where you change perhaps a kilometer or what have you, and you do it properly, and don't make excuses. Right? The only solution is to replace the old pipes. There's no way about it. All right. And in the meantime, do not charge people for water they cannot use, because the people are still buying water. They're buying water to drink, water to cook with, and so on. A lady showed me some clothes that was destroyed. Right? People are losing good clothes. They can't go to church on Sundays. They're losing appliances and so on. I think also where it can be proven, government might have to, or should, not have to, they probably should compensate people for their appliances if they're damaged. So as member of parliament, if I have enough evidence that an appliance was destroyed, perhaps a washing machine or what have you, government will be obligated to replace that appliance.
All right, Andre, we come to you. Unsafe water is a serious health risk. What dangers face families in St. Lucie?
All right, thank you, Melissa. Before going to the families in St. Lucie, I just want to say that water is critical to every aspect of your life in terms of health. You need it to clean up with. You need good, clean water for drinking, for cooking. Obviously, you will need it for your laundry, everything. So the provision of clean water, not just in St. Lucie, but anywhere in Barbados, should be the paramount importance to any government. And any representative should make sure that their constituents have clean drinking water. Now, when you come to the issues with water, water can also carry a number of vectors that cause disease. We've had a bad history in Barbados where you had cholera, which is one of the things that can be spread through water. Now, we do not know what is in the water within St. Lucie. We don't know what is causing the discoloration. And by now, the Barbados Water Authority should have come to the people of Barbados and said, look, this water is discolored because of rust from the pipes, or this water is discolored because of silt from the mud that is in the aquifer, or this water is discolored because of some other reason. By now, I think that this problem has been going on long enough that the geologists within the and the hydrologists within the Barbados Water Authority should be able to say to the people of St. Lucie and St. Peter, which are affected, what is the source of the discoloration in the water? Is it the pipes only, or is it a matter with the aquifer where the water is coming from? Now, we don't know. We can be exposed to a number of different health issues. Paul would have started to mention some of them. You have gastrointestinal diseases as a result of water issues. You can have people who have very sensitive skin who may either develop a rash or itchy skin because of issues with the water. All of these things are there. And that's why the environmental health officers and persons within the Ministry of Health play a critical role in helping to evaluate these things. Now, to come to the people of Barbados, I was very appalled over the weekend watching the press conference and having representatives from the Barbados Water Authority come and say to the people of St. Lucie that they ran tests. They didn't give you any specifics on the tests that they ran or the parameters which the water met. They didn't say how the concentration of lead, the concentration of iron, the concentration of any microbes within the water. They didn't give you any details of the water. They just said that they ran tests and it met certain parameters and the water is safe to drink. To me, that is nonsense, and it just shows it was a communication blunder by the Barbados Water Authority. Because first of all, many people say that you drink or you eat with your eyes first. If you see water is brown, I live in St. John, and when we have heavy rainfall, sometimes you get brown water coming through as a result of the water flowing through the mud from the fields mixing with the water. When the water is brown like that, you don't drink it. You don't boil the water either. And which is true, you do get a sort of odor, and it leaves a sludge even in certain things. So to say to someone that just because the water meets certain criteria from tests that it is safe to drink, it is nonsense. Because I am certain that they would not drink that water at home, and to come to Barbadians in a press conference to say that that is reprehensible and should not have been done. You need to make sure that the people of Barbados have clean drinking water. This problem has been going on for far too long in St. Lucie, and the Barbados Water Authority and the government should every single day or every single week provide to the residents of St. Lucie enough water that they can do all of their for drinking and for cooking and maybe even for their laundry as well, free of cost at this stage. And also not only at this stage, but as a result of the press conference and the statement which was made, a true representative should demand that this is done for the people of the constituency, because that is deplorable and should never be done by the Barbados Water Authority to say to people that brown water is safe to drink. It does not look clean. And if it does not look clean, it means that it cannot be clean. And you should not be saying to people that they can drink the water. And true representation as the topic of the theme for tonight, the representative from St. Lucie and St. Peter, who are both in government, who have the ear of the Prime Minister, who is also the minister responsible for water in this country, and she's also the minister responsible for finance, should be demanding that to make as justification or to amends to the people of St. Lucie and St. Peter, that a program be developed where they are provided with clean drinking water and clean water for their laundry. Up to this morning, I was told that people actually buy water to wash their laundry. Could you imagine that? I can't imagine how you get it work through a washing machine and the quantity of water that you would have to buy. So it means that they may very well be washing their laundry by hand if you're buying water to do your laundry. So the representative of St. Peter and St. Lucie, they need to get the government to start delivering clean water to the people for drinking, for cooking, and also for their laundry. And it can be done. Don't say that it can't be done, because you've had bottle drives all over, and I'm certain that there are persons who are willing to donate this water. And you don't even have to go to private companies, but even through the Barbados Water Authority can put the water in special canisters and deliver them to the household of persons on a daily basis or on a weekly basis for them to consume. We do not know the extent of the health crisis that we are opening up persons to. You had situations, I think it was in Flint, Michigan, with the lead pipes, which, and as we know, things like lead affect your growth and your development mentally. So we don't know what we are exposing the young children in St. Peter and St. Lucie to. And I would hate to believe that 10 years after the fact, that you have a number of persons that could be developing cancer, could be developing issues with their thyroids, a number of different health challenges. And then when we do the studies, we recognize that is as a result of the water which they were forced to utilize at primaries in those areas. And, you know, when you also think about young children as well, because all of us here as an adult, when we see the brown water, we would avoid drinking it. But when the children are at school running around thirsty, who is to stop the child from going to the tap at the school and drinking that water? Because you're not going to be able to see as it runs through the tap and run into your hand to drink that water is brown. You would only see it when you put it in a glass. The majority of those children at primary school and stuff like that, they don't drink from a glass. They drink from the water straight out the tap into their hands, into their mouths. And we do not know what sort of health risk we are exposing them to. And therefore, we need to take the steps to remedy the situation by providing clean drinking water and bottled water throughout St. Peter and St. Lucie for the residents.
All right, we have a question here online from Esther Blue. Senator Andrew Worrell, when people are forced to buy bottled water every week, how does this affect household budgets and their mental health, especially the pensioners?
Obviously, it is a cost, but you know what? They're saying, well, my health is more important to me right now. And that is why the government should not be forcing people to do this. One, there should be rebates on their water bills. Two, this water should be provided by the government free of cost to the people they're paying a water bill to get this clean water. They've been going through this problem for a number of months, a number of years, and I think to show that you know that you really care and that how serious the situation is, provide the clean drinking water at least to the people free of cost. Deliver every household probably like 5 gallons per person per day. Deliver 20 gallons per household so that people will have adequate drinking water, and put depots within the area that persons can freely go and collect the water, because I don't think that people will be so vicious that they will go and take up more water than what they need and start selling it. But if you utilize the churches and the schools within the areas and the various mini marts and so forth that people can go and collect the water, I don't think you can find people from Christchurch coming to St. Lucie to collect free water. But you know, Barbadians are not that insensitive. But you do it and you put whatever checks and balances on it that it can be done. And this is a solution. This is a solution that we are offering freely to the government of Barbados. You need to do something about this. You need to do something about this, especially as you go into your annual conference and you're trying to give people in Barbados the impression that all is well. Wait and take the conference to St. Lucie over the weekend. If you believe that the water is good to drink, take this conference to St. Lucie and drink the water up there while you're at your conference. Have it at the head table for every single person that comes to speak. Give them a glass of St. Lucie brown water to drink if you believe that it is good and palatable for the people of Barbados.
All right, Andre, how should a responsible representative respond to this situation?
Well, I think I would have outlined some of that, but a responsible representative, well, first of all, is he going house to house? First of all, if you were going house to house to your constituents, you would know how they're coping. And as a result of them telling you about the challenges that they're going through, as a responsible representative, you will try to put solutions in place. Because if you go, I'm not too familiar with the St. Lucie districts, but if me, for example, if I go into Parks Road and everybody in Parks Road complaining about water, I would be able to find a solution to fix those people. If I go to Buckingham Road or something like that, and it's the same issue, I would be able to put a solution to that. So if the representatives from the Barbados Labour Party were actually in touch with their constituents, you would hear the people of St. Lucie and St. Peter saying, my representative has been around, and as a result of that, he's put this measure in place. You're not even hearing them saying, well, look, the water tanks are coming more frequently, and I don't have to buy water to do the washing, because that's something that you could make available. Most persons will probably do their washing on weekends. Make sure that a water tank comes into the community on weekends, and that every single household has a drum that they can collect this water to use for their laundry on weekends. Things like that a responsible representative would do. Agitate, because I cannot imagine living in a constituency and paying a water bill and you're getting poor service. By now, the residents of St. Lucie and St. Peter should be told, look, and the opposition leader requested this, that they should not be paying a water bill for the service that they're getting. So if you had decent representation from the two MPs for St. Lucie and St. Peter, this would have been done, because, as like I said, they have the ear of the minister responsible for water, and they have the ear of the prime minister, who's the same person, by the way, and they have the ear of the minister of finance, who is the same said person. So 3 in 1. But that can show you how simple the problem can be fixed, because the one single person, the prime minister of Barbados, who is the minister responsible for water resources, who is also the minister of finance and also the prime minister of Barbados, if they had any intention and really did care about how this matter is affecting the people, it would have been dealt with there and then. But I guess that the election is not tomorrow, but by the time now and the election, if it is next month, they will probably give the people of St. Lucie a rebate and find some way to fix the problem then. But for right now, they're not dealing with it, because no, it can be done.
I want to add to what you're saying, and I like how you framed it. You said that the person that is responsible for water in Barbados is who?
Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister of Barbados. You said that the Prime Minister of Barbados is the what? The Minister of Finance. I remember a couple of years ago, I'm having the same problem that the people of St. Lucie are having in Redmond's Village and in Seaview, where the water is either null and void or dirty when it comes to you can't use it. The same thing is happening not only in St. Lucie, but it's happening in Redmond's Village in the St. James Central area. And I remember spoke about it on Sunday night when I addressed the members of Redmond's Village. But for the longest while, the people of Redmond's Village had an issue where there's these rotten pipes that are filled with calcium and rust and everything. And there's a very small entrance of water into the area. Many nights, a nurse, a fireman, a soldier will come home from work, will step in the shower, turn on the tap, and nothing comes up but air or sometimes it's drips of brown water. I remember the Prime Minister ran some finance some pipes to go all the way up to Sandy Lane. So Sandy Lane got water coming from down the hill, down the Warrens area, coming all the way up the highway to run into Sandy Lane and bypass Redlands Village and bypass Seaview. And my point is it that we have two Barbadoses? Is it that some people can get water, but the people in St. Lucie and Redlands Village and Seaview can't get water? Yeah, and so I think it's a despicable thing when you have citizens waiting for water. The Minister of Finance and the person in charge of water is responsible. Big works come to me. She said, big works come to me. And she can't get a simple problem fixed, like what we did when St. Phillips and those people were not having water. We changed out the pipes. Mm-hmm. Why is it that they can't, in 2025, they can't change the pipes out for these people? I think it is despicable. I believe, I heard the representative for St. Lucie on the radio last week or week before. And he was on the radio pretty much saying, they ignore me, they're not paying me the money. I've been trying to get you all fixed up, but they're paying me the money. And he's going on. And I said, I say, fella, grow up here. Grow up here. You are the representative. What are you doing? You ignore me. No, you're supposed to badger. You're supposed to fight for the people of St. Lucie and say, no. I want water up here and make sure that you even hold placards because they put you there as a representative. And if you can't do it, get out of the way, as far as I'm concerned. And so I love that point you made. That's a very big point. The point is that the issue with St. Lucie's water falls squarely on the shoulders of Mia Amor Motley, the minister responsible for water in Barbados. And I want that to sink in. This is not being political, no. This is just a statement of fact. Mm-hmm. And let's call it, you go around, you're solving the problems in St. Vincent. You're solving the problems in Kuwait. You're going to Venezuela. You're fighting for Cuba, and people in St. Lucie want some water and Redlands Village and CB, and you can't get it done.
Something not basic.
Something not basic. And it's not that you don't have the money, you know. It's not that you don't have the money. The money has been, the majority of money being given to the Barbados government is for environmental work. Yeah. The Green Fund, the Green Bank. The IDB is giving money for this, all environmental and climate change and climate resilience and this kind of thing. And something as simple as capturing water and dealing with the situation, we can't do it. And as a matter of fact, I make the point, this week, if you saw the amount of water that flowed from the skies of Barbados, and then the guy came on and the meteorologist came on and said, oh, by the way, we're sodden, we have too much water now. And the LP has been, the Democratic Party has been saying, we need to find a mechanism to dam and capture water, right, and to be used for potable water. So we made this point. All of this water that's flowing to the ocean could be easily captured and sent through an adequate, efficient engineering process that would allow it to be used for refreshing our dams and our water systems in Barbados. So this is back at the Prime Minister's feet. He needs to do something.
I was a bit scared just now when my comrade Santa Andre said, "You're wrong. Were you talking about God?"
Definitely not. Definitely not.
I want to go back to the first video where the minister, Mr. Ryan Strong, made a horrible suggestion. Horrible. He's asking that we repurpose sewage water, take sewage water, possibly clean it up, and then pump it in the aquifers for us to drink. Who? Me? Not me. I cannot see myself drinking water that was sewage. Because you must realize that there's other methods of replenishing aquifers. Can we not sink wells upstream or uphill, Mr. Minister. I prefer that. I prefer that the government go about just like in the olden days when we had wells in the fields for the plantation. We can sink some wells and channel the water in the aquifers and not allow it to run off like my comrade Paul spoke about just now. Too much water run off into the sea through our gullies. We could dam the gullies maybe every mile coming down till we get down to flat land, down to the sea. And by each dam, we could have a well and reduce the amount of water each time that coming down that going to the sea. So by the time the water reach the coast, you have a lot less water to waste. Barbados, Liberal Party-led government, please remember that water is not a luxury. I dare say that it's a human right. Any government that allows citizens to endure years of dirty water, water that is unsafe, has failed its people in the most fundamental way. A caring government has a duty to protect health, dignity, and life itself. The people of St. Lucie and St. Peter deserves more than apologies and empty press conferences. They deserve leadership that invests in new mains, new water mains, proper filtration, and modern infrastructure, instead of patching old pipes. I'm hoping that people forget about this injustice because it is an injustice. This is not the time for excuses. It is time for accountability. And the Barbados Liberal Party must be accountable for this issue with poor water quality. It has been 7 years that you were in government. You can't blame nobody now. And the people in St. Lucie and parts of St. Peter are paying a full water bill and not getting quality water they must be given better. You must give them a rebate on the water bill, and you must get out there and is providing a water truck or water tank during the day when everyone is at work. It is nonsense. You have to provide water when people are home early in the morning and on evenings, and sometimes 3 and 4 times on evenings too, because you might come out at 5 and then by the time the truck gone, someone don't get home. Imagine what is worse. Sometimes not only do you have horrible or dirty water in certain parts in St. Peter and Lucie, but oftentimes the water is also off. That's another issue.
So in your opinion, Jason, who is ultimately responsible?
The government is responsible because the government is elected to look after the affairs of the people. You collect taxes. And therefore, if there's an issue and you're taking the people's money, fix the issue. Full stop.
And just remember.
Can I jump in
Sure.
there on the taxes? Because during that communication blunder which the Barbados Water Authority had over the weekend, you heard that, well, number of persons are being disconnected because they can't pay their water bills. You heard that the Barbados Water Authority is collecting the gas, the sewage and garbage levy through the water bill, which was supposed to be $60 million a year, but they now said that they're paying over as much as $100 million a year. So it means that you are collecting more revenue for the gas and sewage the garbage and sewage levy, and therefore you can reduce the burden on the people by reducing it. Because don't forget, it's obviously going to be difficult for a person to pay their water bill. You were paying a water bill of $38 a month. 30, I would say $38 a month generally. And then this government, when they came in 2018, added the garbage and sewage contribution onto it, which pushed your water bill up to
175%
dollars
yeah.
a month.
Mhm.
And now you're saying that you're collecting $40 million more annually than what you had budgeted for, and you cannot give people an ease on their water bills,
No,
especially in a situation where you're noticing, because of the hardship going on in Barbados, that a number of persons cannot pay their water bills, and you have been forced to disconnect them. And you are also noticing that even though you forced to disconnect them, that they're not coming to have the water bills reconnected. So it obviously means the persons cannot afford it. But yeah, so this government is doing nothing in terms of easing the burden on the people of Barbados.
Mhm.
And that came out through that communication blunder, which the Barbados Water Authority called a press conference over the weekend.
Yeah.
So they can definitely do more. The revenue is there. You're supposed to be paying out 60 million, you're collecting 100 million. So the revenue is there. That if they wanted to do something to assist the people of St. Peter and St. Lucie, the revenue is there that they can do it with.
Yes.
And also assist all of those people too, because water is a basic minimum, a basic need for every household.
Correct.
So if persons are having issues paying their water bill, why isn't the welfare stepping in to clear that bill for them so that they can get running water into their house? Are we trying to create a health crisis in this country with persons who do not have running water in their house? So if they don't have the running water in their house, the government should be concerned, the representatives should be concerned, where are they getting the water from to bathe their children, to provide milk for their babies? No mother in this country should have to be worried about the safety of the water that they're using to bathe their children or to make milk formula. So, and if you have a number of people in Barbados who are disconnected from the water means, first priority of the Minister of Social Care and People Empowerment, send the welfare officer to the house, see what the issue is, wipe off those bills so that people can get water running back into their house, because we don't want no gastrointestinal diseases being spread in Barbados because you don't have water to wash your hands after you've come from the to the toilet, and have a number of people with diarrhea, vomiting in Barbados. You don't want to have a situation where people have skin infections because you don't know where they're drawing their water from to take a bath and to wash their clothes. And that is should be the first priority of the minister responsible for the welfare department.
Mhm.
Water is a basic need. So if you
Yeah.
have a number of households who have been disconnected and they're not paying to be reconnected, send a welfare officer to check out the situation, pay the bill, and have running water going back through the taps of the households.
Yes. If I may add to that, I paint this scenario here. I'm in Qulan and Redmond's Village area, and the water truck. What year are we in again? 2025, right?
Mhm.
October. There's internet where people go to the moon, and people are floating. All these in the world, and right there in Qulan and Redmond's Village, the water truck blows the horn. Boop, 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 boop. And Barbadians are running out of their doors with buckets and laying them out at the side of the road
Mhm.
so that they can catch water and lift them. And all the little kids and everybody's struggling to carry. And the one that gets me really are the old ladies, especially when the truck don't go all the way up. You know they're not getting any water because there's nobody to take their water into the house. And this is Barbados. This is the land of the Wyndham and Sandy Lane and Polo and all this kind of stuff.
Hendry.
Hendry, we have people in Barbados right now, in this Barbados, the beautiful beaches. who are outside struggling with buckets in 2025 to carry in the house. Just because an old 100-year-old pipe needs to be changed that has been stuck with calcium carbonate and rust that has narrowed, right? And what is the point I'm making? This topic tonight is about the fact about leadership and representation. And this ties right back to the fact that there needs to be representation of the people. We need in 2025 to be getting water to where it needs to be. It is not a difficult fix. We have people that are bright. We have great accountants. We have people that run large organizations. Fix the pipe, change it out. We want in Redlands Village, we want in Seaview, we want in St. Lucie. Sort the problem out. And that's all we're calling for, you know. Now, for the last 7 years, and this is the last 7 years as far as I'm concerned, it's the last 7 years of the Barbados Labour Party, where they haven't been governing. And this last 7 years of the Barbados Labour Party is really beginning to put a burden and a pressure on the people of Barbados. 40 new taxes, right? The bus fare went from 150 to 350, and I'm sure, I'm convinced, and nobody can tell me anything. If they had the opportunity to push that bus fare up again, I think they would have done it. Not remembering that the mother with 3 kids would be affected so badly by increasing some of the bus fare, right? Water is fundamental. Let's get back to the basics, nuts and bolts. Water. Sort the water issue out, man.
I find that video that we saw earlier with the guy who was creeping on the ground, Mr. Producer, in St. Lucie. If you can see that again, it'd be lovely. He's creeping on the ground. He sees a man with water, and then look at his reaction. Can we see that again? That was beautiful. But what you're looking for, I want to say this: residents, or indeed constituents, have a right to clean water. Full stop. Silence from elected officials is complicit. You are part of the problem. True representation acts before crisis escalates. It does not wait for a wage. So, as a member of parliament, if you're not in the House of Assembly, kicking up dust on behalf of your constituents, you are not doing the work of the people. You're not acting in your constituents' best interests. Accountability is not political convenience. It is a duty to the people. So, imagine, and I'm speaking directly to the member of parliament for St. Peter and the member of parliament for St. Lucie. Imagine that you come home, whether you live in a fancy house or a shed, and you go and use the bathroom, and when you flush, there's no water. That happens to people in St. Peter and St. Lucie. Or, if there's water, it comes out brown. You're really going to eat a meal after that? You come home from work, you use the bathroom, you flush the toilet, you wash your hand in brown water, and you go for supper. Perhaps that is not your experience. It also baffles my mind. How is that residents in, and this was happening for quite a while, residents in Six Men's Village, especially where the people are squatting, we're getting brown water. And they had 2 tourist facilities in the area. And they were getting clean clear, fresh water. What it is, it seems as though we cater for people from far away, tourists, and we are very lackadaisical or slow to help our own. I often say that home drums must beat first. You should look after your own people first. And I say it to those out there who are listening to me. When the time comes, bet who bet you. Barbadians should never have to endure brown water for so many years. And other people who just visit this country for a short while don't have a problem with water. It tells us that our government cares more about people from overseas than about people who live here, people who pay the taxes here. I will come to these points all the time because we have a psychology, a mentality that baffles me. You must look after your own first. I don't want to go by somebody's place and see that they are mistreating their own people and treating me good. I am always wary of those people. You must look after your own people first and then consider other people. Right now, we're talking about inviting residents of St. Vincent, Dominica, and Belize. If they stay in St. Lucie, that's going to make the problem worse. St. Peter, you give them what? You see them brown water to drink?
Free bottle of water vinegar in the land.
Barbadians, open your eyes. Look around you. See how you're being treated now. And a few weeks before election, when the government tried to sweeten you up, remember how you're being treated now. We must hold this Barbados Labour Party led government's feet to the fire. I'm not at all satisfied that enough is being done. We're paying too much for water, and what we're getting in return is a far cry from what we deserve. And I'm going to stop there.
All right. Andre, how does the Democrat Labour Party approach leadership differently than this current government?
Well, definitely the Democratic Labour Party's approach to leadership would not to sweep matters under the carpet, not to stifle communication in the press, but our approach to leadership will be to deal with the issues. And our approach to leadership does not include promising people things 4 years down the road that you have no idea whether or not it will be delivered. You need to deal with the crisis at the center, and you need to deal with it frontally. One, you need to listen to the people and get their involvement and engagement in the solution to the problem. This water crisis, for the length of time that it has been going on, I am certain that the residents of St. Peter and St. Lucie have some idea of how the government can help them. One, I do not believe that the government is being transparent with people of Barbados as to the true nature of the problem, what is really causing it. And if we knew what was really causing the problem, I believe that we would have been able to sort it out already. I think that we've reached the stage in Barbados where if the water coming from the ground aquifer is contaminated or we are having problems with it, we need to go to the stage of putting a desalination plant in St. Lucie and St. Peter so that the residents can get clean water. And all through St. Lucie and St. Peter, we should be seeing those storage tanks to facilitate gravity feeding of the water through the mains to the residents. You also do this in conjunction with the mains replacement. Now, the mains replacement project has been going on for a number of years, so I don't think that the problem can be the mains alone any longer. That has been going on for a number of years. So these are things that you need to do. Have a desalination plant within the feeding St. Lucie and St. Peter, and to some extent St. Andrew and St. James as well. Have the storage tanks put in place, and then you start gravity feeding the water so that you bypass the aquifer. Because wherever the issue is coming from, it has to deal with the aquifer. And if you are gravity feeding the water from those tanks and the desalination plant, I think that that will bypass that problem. And I don't think that that is a problem that will take you 10 to 15 years to put in place. You get the package desalination plant or the desalination plant in place, you introduce the new mains across the constituency, and also install the tanks, and you can go probably a year, 2 years the most. And within that period of time, you deal with the short-term issues and making sure that one, the persons have access to clean drinking water, they have adequate water to do their laundry, and all of those things. And is a problem that could be easily solved. And I think that this government, in terms of leadership, one person who's wearing 3 hats at this time can solve the problem. And the Prime Minister did say that all big works go through her. And I do not understand for the life of me why this is one big works problem that she is finding difficult to solve. And she controls the lever, the funding. All she has to do is to have a special cabinet meeting with in Barbados to deal with this St. Lucie water crisis and put in place the measures that would be needed to fix it. And within a week, the rollout can start. She's going about the world begging for money for all sorts of things. They've just begged for taking a loan from China for $390 million to do another promise expansion to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital that we still don't know if that will solve the issues. Go to the Clean Water Fund and beg for money to fix the issue in St. Lucie and not push the matter under the carpet or try to hide it or stifle the media from actually carrying information with regard to it. Because at the end of the day, the people of St. Lucie are still there. So you can't shut up that's about nearly 18,000 constituents together in St. Lucie and St. Peter. You can't shut up 18,000 people one time. We need to deal with the issue.
And we have a comment here from Erskine Watson. Some pensioners install water tanks along with connections to have their tanks filled. Such systems cost as much as $4,500.
In terms of that, well, for persons in St. Peter and St. Lucie, that cost should be covered and come as a rebate because it is a necessity. Throughout Barbados, and we do have the facilities to do it because we offer rebates on our taxes for solar hot water systems, and also concessions as well for putting the solar panels on your house. So something like that, which is necessary, I think that there should be a rebate for it, so that in particular for pensioners, it should be offered to pensioners for free, so that they would not have to cover the full cost of it. So if you can't rebate the full cost, at least do a 50 to a 70%, 75% rebate. And because it helps with the problem. And then if you have a number of those tanks, you just have to create a schedule where they come through districts, fill those tanks, and people will at least have water that they can use in their household for the laundry, for cleaning up, and different things, and for bathing.
Okay, well, currently they're only rebating the $32
Mhm.
to each customer. So this question is for you, Paul. What separates Democratic Labour Party's leadership from what we've seen in St. Lucie?
Thanks for that question. I like to deal with this question because it really points Barbadians' minds into where it really should be, which is that any good leadership involves proactivity, accountability, and environmental responsibility. These are three things that the Democratic Labour Party are very good at doing, right? And so we find ourselves in a situation where when you become aware of things like this, right away, as we had started doing when we were in government, we started to replace, we had a mains replacement campaign. And it was on its way down the island. It actually was stopped. The handbrake was pulled up on that for a couple of years. We don't know, up to now, we don't know why that means replacement campaign was stopped, but it was stopped. And unfortunately, we are where we are today, 7 years later. The other point I wanted to make is that we do not just talk about solutions. We are an action party. If you look at the leaders that we've had over the years, starting from the founding father of our party, L. Walton Barrow, who had a vision for lifting Barbadians up. He's the one that started removing things like outhouse toilets and getting people to school. The reason why the clinic system was put in place was because people were having a lot of chiggers and lice and all this kind of thing going up. I mean, that was a reality of Barbados back in the 50s and the 60s. And running water had put an end to that problem. Well, pretty much it arrested the problem because people were able to shower and to get showers, bathe, and so on. So water, from the time the party started, we have always been about proactively looking at the hygiene, looking at proper water consumption. We were talking in the last DLP-TV that the public health inspectors would go from house to house testing the water and so on, because it was very important, right? Water care and water purification and so on. So all in all, from 33,000 feet, the DLP will be shedding light on these areas, finding solutions. In the case where there needs to be a desalination plant, we provide one. In the place where you need to circumvent the system for a season to fix the problem, we'll do that. For a situation where we need to cut or lower the prices or the taxes associated with water. And by the way, the person mentioned about the tank costing $4,500. The question is, when you spend your money doing that, is there a cost to you for filling those tanks all the way up 4,000? Do you still have to pay the full cost of filling a full tank, 4,000 liters? You have to bear that cost. Again, if you have a situation in a specific geographic area, there's no reason why those people should be still paying bills. I remember Jason spoke about an amnesty for bill payment for a period of time. It is something that the government should seriously look at starting tomorrow, because it is unconscionable for Barbadians to be still paying such a high water bill, not getting adequate service. Is a breach of the service contract. And we must remember that it is a breach of the service contract. You're paying the Barbados Water Authority to run to your house odorless, colorless, what else? Tasteless water. That's what we're paying for. And is that happening? No, it is not. So I believe that from 32,000 feet, we would look at the systems. Water flows into a house starting somewhere, right? All systems use the method of a river, where it has a source and then you have tributaries. A tree has roots and it comes out, it branches out and forms a system. The water system is the same way. It starts somewhere. So to fix the problem with the water, You just have to follow the system. And if somebody's doing their job adequately, it's not difficult to find the problem. And that is what the DLP would offer to Barbados.
Andrea, Paul mentioned health inspectors. Is there still a shortage in Barbados when it comes to the health inspectors?
Of course there is, and it's a number one complaint when you go canvassing. I've canvassed the St. Michael Central constituency, and that was a complaint, especially now that the rain is falling and you have mosquitoes. A number of people complain for the bush. And when you ask them, when last have you seen the inspector? I have not seen the inspector in a while. Because what this Barbados Labour Party government has done is that there is a shortage of health inspectors, and they've asked the health inspectors now to take on a wider catchment area. So that before, when you will be accustomed to seeing a health inspector traversing the district at least twice a year, every 6 months, now you will hardly get to see that health inspector once a year, probably just once a year, because they don't have the time, because their catchment area has been increased. They're not hiring new persons, and they're not promoting persons into position. And a health inspector is a very critical role, because you need to have them going through the communities, dealing with encouraging people to get rid of water, especially now that you're having the sources of catching water, especially now that you are having so much rain. You're beginning to see more mosquitoes. So you don't want to hear about another outbreak of dengue or any mosquito-borne disease. And then the rodents as well, cleaning up. I've noticed also that the Sanitation Service Authority is also a little behind in their garbage collection schedule, because as you drive around some areas, you're seeing more and more piles of garbage. So that would be flies, and that would be encourage flies and the rats and stuff like that. So all of these are things that the health inspectors would normally pay attention to. And then in terms of people cleaning up around them as well, the bushing of the land, which would encourage again the rodents and other things. So that's a very critical part. And unfortunately, this Barbados Party government does not see it as being that important. And as a result of that, you're not seeing the health inspectors going through the community as often as they would normally do.
All right, so we're gonna go through some questions and comments from online. So the first question here is to Senator Worrell. Would you support a national clean water guarantee where the state must refund or credit citizens for poor water quality?
Well, I think that should be something that is basic. If the Barbados Water Authority is not providing clean water for persons, they have no right to be selling the bill. And this is something that the Fair Trading Commission should be checking upon. Up to, well, I believe the Fair Trading Commission said recently that a number of persons in Barbados did not seek the rebates that they should get, and particularly the Barbados Water Authority was the chief culprit for that, because they did not advertise to persons the ways in which they can seek rebates from through the Fair Trading Commission for poor service. So yes, a clean water campaign should be a no-brainer. And that should be the motto of the Barbados Labour Party. Clean water always, not just safer with Mia, but clean water always.
All right, we have a comment here from Y Walks. All the people in St. Lucie should get together and decide not to pay the government for water, even those that are not affected. The next one states, people seem to be afraid to offend the government because they voted for it. This is about health. The next question is back to you, Andre. If you agree that a desalination plant will help solve the problem, why is St. Lucie not the first to benefit from this project?
Well, that's something that you would have to ask the Barbados Labour Party-led government. But I will say that under the Democratic Labour Party government, that is definitely one of the measures that we would put in place to make sure that you have access to adequate drinking water across Barbados. Don't forget that we still have issues where we are not getting adequate rainfall in Barbados. And the only way that you can guarantee that you have adequate water for drinking and for all of your daily needs is through a desalination plant. And I believe that with the use of renewable energy, that we should have more desalination plants across Barbados to make it easier for persons to have adequate access to water throughout the year and not to be so dependent on rainfall.
All right, Jason, I'm going to bring this next question to you.
Mhm.
What is the difference between not paying your water bill and getting a disconnect notice and paying the bill and getting no water or dirty, unsafe water?
I was tempted to say no difference, but there is a difference. One, you were disconnected because you could not pay the bill, or you could not afford the water.
Mhm.
And the other scenario is you can afford to pay for the water, but the water you're getting, you can't use it. Either way, you have no water. But in both instances, the government is responsible because water is too vital and too important. It's not a luxury, as I said. If your water is disconnected, the government have to look and see, well, if it was one or two persons not paying the water bill, then perhaps that person was a delinquent. But if you have a number of people sufficient that could raise eyebrows and say, wait, these people can't afford this water, then you have to look again at your billing and ask yourself, should we lower this bill? If you're a caring government, you would do that because water is essential. You need it for everything. You need it to cook with, you need it to bathe with, you need it for your animals, you need it for your plants, and so on. Where the water now is brown and nasty and can't be used, government must be careful that they're not negligent because they owe a duty of care to their customers. And if there's a breach of that duty of care, and as a result of that breach, the customer suffer a loss. And to put it in very simple language, if the water that the customer is paying for perhaps causes that customer to become sick, or the water damage the appliances in the home, or destroy the customer's clothing, and the customer can evidence that, then the government might be held liable and an action might be brought against the government for negligence. So the government must be careful because you get a number of people filing actions against the government. But a caring member of parliament who recognizes that he has a mandate, an obligation to his constituents, would not and should not wait to reach that level. He's representing these people. He was elected to do so. Therefore, he must go to the government, even though it is his government, and say to the cabinet, my people are suffering. My people are hurting the water in my constituency. They cannot use. They're paying a water bill. They're paying sewage bill. They still can't use the water. And force government to act in their favor. Anything less is not good enough.
All right, we have another statement here from Yvonne Walks. Comrades, we are not begging anyone. This is a basic human right and a measure of good representation. Those in government owe the people basic human rights. Does you want to comment on that?
She said exactly what you said just now. Listen, it's all about dignity. You come home, you don't have water to bathe. That's another issue. I was thinking at it. Not only is there brown water in St. Peter and in St. Lucie, but oftentimes the water is off. There's no water when you get home, you can't cook. Sometimes the water is on, you use the bathroom, maybe number 1 or number 2, and then there's no water to flush with. Or you're in the shower, and then the tap going dry. These are basic issues that should not affect Barbados in 2025. Far less getting dirty water to drink, brown water. I reiterate this. If the water has a color, for me, that water is dirty. He said that water, I remember doing biology at school. Water must be odorless, colorless, and tasteless. If it's not odorless, colorless, and tasteless, then the water, in my opinion, in my opinion, can be clean. Because until and unless you can serve that water to a tourist in Sandy Lane, if you want me to drink it as a Barbadian citizen, Mr. Member of Parliament or Mr. Ryan, well, you serve it to our guests in our hotels. And if you tell them that that water is fit for purpose and the guest is willing to drink it, I might then begin to listen to you.
With or without ice.
I must go back to the video that we had earlier where the minister, Mr. Strong, is advocating that we use water from the sewage. I think it's an awful, ridiculous, horrible, all of those words. Idea.
All right.
Go
Go ahead.
Perhaps when you're sitting down in cabinet and you're framing policy, consider sinking some wells, capturing the water. I prefer that.
All right, we have a question here from Esther Blue. At the end of the day, this isn't politics, it's about people.
Mhm.
What's the first step a Democratic Labour Party administration would take to restore dignity to these constituencies? Paul.
Well, the way I would suggest we approach it, we heard from the Barbados Water Authority, but they're not the gatekeepers of health. They are in charge of the Barbados Water Authority. I personally, I know I had my friend Ronald Chapman, the most honorable Ronald Chapman, who was the head environmental public health officer. He's no longer there. He went on to start a pest control company called Argonne Pest Control.
Yeah.
But the persons to now speak to are there's Kerry King. I would ask, the first thing I would ask the members of St. Lucie by communities to contact the Ministry of Health, reach out to the public health inspectors, Kerry King, Catherine St. Lou. They're the top of the food chain in that department. I would invite them to come in and to have a conversation about, from a public health standpoint, about the state of the water from the position of a public health inspector. They're the ones that give the reports to the Barbados Water Authority. And I would like to hear from their lips what the reports are saying, because these are reports that are done daily. Reports are done daily in those areas. So there's documentation as to where the bacteria levels are, the silt levels, the chemistry, they are available. I think it is time to crack this thing open and for the people of St. Lucie to have conversations with the Public Health Department of Barbados, invite them in, have a public forum, and begin to have that conversation and begin to put solutions in place, because they actually will be able to tell you the best approach to the thing. Yeah, that's where I would personally start, because it is a public health issue and you need some public health intervention.
All right, we have a comment here from Jonathan B. By now, the FTC should have intervened and ordered the Barbados Water Authority to refund subscribers in St. Lucie, St. Peter, and St. Joseph for a prolonged lack of service as well as a product that is not fit for purpose. Another question here. Should MPs be required by law to report and respond to issues affecting their constituency in Parliament? Jason, I'm going to bring that question to you.
It's not by law, but I mean, the obligation. You have a mandate. You were elected by the people to look after their best interests. And that's why each constituency is represented by a person. At the end of the day, you are in a member of parliament, would have been a member of a party that would have been elected to office. But first and foremost, the member of parliament's obligation is to his people who elected him. And then you fail to be a voice for your people, you have failed your people. You should be sent home packing, right? But I want to say this though. The government of Barbados should be shamed to disconnect water in St. Lucie and certain parts of St. Peter. I mean, already the water is of a poor quality. And if some people cannot pay for it or they're fed up and refuse to pay for it, you should just leave it as it is. You should realize that a lot. We shouldn't be selling this water in the first place. And therefore, okay, embarrassment. Don't disconnect the water. I hope that those members in government that are responsible for water resource. And at no point in my discussion here am I talking to any civil servant. My concern is merely to those who represent the people of St. Lucie, St. Peter, and the minister responsible for water resource. The Barbadian public deserve better. They deserve clean drinking water. They're not begging you for it. You asked to govern this country, and by governing this country, you have to manage the resources. Water is a resource that must be managed carefully. It's a basic necessity. As I said earlier, I consider it a human right. You cannot do or go without water. You need it for drinking, you need it for sanitation, you need it for bathing, you need it for cooking, you need water in every sphere of life. Put yourself, Mr. Minister, Mr. Parliamentarian, put yourself in the shoes of your constituents. And perhaps, if you do that, you will feel inclined to fight on their behalf. 7 years is an awful long time. You must do more. And I will stand with the good people of St. Peter, with the good people of St. Lucie, and fight until better is done.
All right, this is the last question we're going to take from the audience. How can we make sure that rural parishes like St. Lucie and St. Peter never again become a forgotten zone? Andre.
Well, I don't think that they should ever be thought of as being a forgotten zone, and we need to see all Barbados as being the same, and we should have access to the resources. We have areas in St. Lucie and St. Peter, which, you know, St. Lucie is probably could be seen as one of the bread baskets of Barbados. It's a lot of agriculture going on there. Parts of St. Peter have been kind to us in terms of being part of the Gold Coast with tourism.
Used to.
So they should, you know, should receive their fair share of the economic gains in Barbados, and all of the citizens, well, St. Andrew and places like that as well. You know, every Barbadian have a right to have at their disposal access to decent water, easy provision to easy access to proper health care and all those things. So they should never be seen as being or feel as though they're a forgotten part of Barbados.
All right. What personal commitment does each of you make to the people who feel forgotten tonight? I'm going to start with you, Andrew.
Well, in terms of the commitment, a Democratic Labour Party government, and with candidates that we are, well, what we are encouraging our candidates to do under the leadership of Ralph Thorne, we need to connect more with the people. And that will make a difference in terms of representation. When you connect with persons, and not to forget the persons who actually elected you, that is important because to make it into parliament, people must elect you. And you need to hold that trust with the persons who elected you and make sure that you find a way to be there for them and to meet the needs of your constituents. That is the most important thing. It's not about being a minister. It's not about being um, a minister and all of those things. It's about being a representative. And once you have that heart where you are interested in representing people, and you have that vision of Barrow where you want to see Barbados grow and develop, and the people of Barbados grow and develop, you will do all that you can to make sure that the people of Barbados get what they deserve or need. And that is what is lacking now, because this trickle down economics which we are getting, in that when you drive around, you're only seeing the villas and stuff like that flourishing and booming, but you're not seeing the small man in Barbados feeling as though he's flourishing or booming. But when you go around, you're not seeing the young people in Barbados. They're very downtrodden. A lot of them recognize, but it's not easy for me to get a job in Barbados. And sadly, a lot of young people in Barbados are saying that they would like to leave because they don't see a future for themselves. And we have to change that dynamic in Barbados and make Barbados about the Barbadians, and that Barbadians actually benefit. And when for this country to develop and prosper, it means that the people of Barbados develop and prosper along with it.
Jason.
Do you care to restate the question?
Sure. What personal commitment do you make to the people who feel forgotten tonight?
Well, those of you who are following me on Instagram, you know that I describe St. Peter as a forgotten parish. And I'll say to you, or I say this to you, after the outgoing MP for St. Peter leaves, I will be your member of parliament who will be your voice in parliament. To me, it is people first, party second. I'm not afraid to say that because I mean it. But I make a part of the new Democratic Labour Party led government, or God forbid, I'm in opposition, I will always be that voice for you. I will always listen to you. I will always respect what it is you say to me. I will put your concerns in Parliament to make sure that I act in your best interest. Not only me, but the government act in your best interest. And this issue with water, dirty water, brown water, whatever you want to describe it as, me as your member of Parliament, I will move, and someone caution me for using these words, but I will use them still. Heaven and earth, tooth and nail, to have this problem rectified. Because it is a crying shame. Water is too basic. We are borrowing too much money. And with this amount of money that we are borrowing, this problem should be fixed. People are too busy with other things and criticizing things they should not be criticizing. This Barbados-led Labour Party government should focus on its work. It should get into St. Lucie and St. Peter and do the people's work. I make no excuses for saying that. You were in government for 7 years. It reminds me of the Pharaoh, the time in Egypt, when they had 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. Not fixing the problem with water in St. Lucie and St. Peter is an indictment on this Barbados Labour Party-led government. People of St. Lucie, people of St. Peter, and indeed people of Barbados, the Democratic Labour Party is ready, it is willing, and is able to take government and to work on your behalf. We are ready to serve you. Tell your neighbor, tell your friends, tell your family that we are ready to change. The Member of Parliament for St. Lucie and the Member of Parliament for St. Peter, they have gone to sleep on the job. They are missing. They are absent without leave. I, Jason Phillips, I am ready and excited to work for you.
Paul,
Let's state the question again. Yes.
sorry. What personal commitment do you make to the people who feel forgotten tonight?
I remember that as I reflect on this particular issue, I remember that there's a $20 million overrun for the whole project. I remember that there's $50 million, $60 million, sorry, for the whole project. Sorry, the figure's so big. $20 million for pool land. There's a vaccine scandal of $24 million. And it tells me that with all these overruns and money going in the wrong direction, that there's a fundamental problem. There is a situation where there is something called Carifta, and you can find $50 million for Carifta all of a sudden. Carifesta, right? We have Carifta. Carifta was in a different country.
We don't have a stadium, so we can't.
Well, that's right. Yeah, Carifesta. Carifesta was $50 million, and there's a beautiful new facility in Newton, which is not being used right now. We have a big thing happening in Newton again. This big block thing happening. They want to find money for it, but something as fundamental as water. I'm going to the comparison because there are funds available. There are millions of dollars available, but the millions of dollars are not being spent on you, the people of St. Lucie, the people of St. Peter, the people of St. James Central, the people of Redmond's Village and Q-Land, right? They don't have enough money to spend on you. And because you know this, and because you're seeing this, and because this is your lived experience, we want you to be very mindful. You know what to do. They're going to have a very gregarious, whipped up activity this weekend coming. But when they come out of all of that, just pour cold water on them. Remind them that they have not served you properly. And the Democratic Labour Party is on the way. Hope is on the way. The Democratic Labour Party is ready to serve you.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. We have come to the end of our show. Thanks for joining us tonight. Tonight, we've seen it clearly. Leadership that ignores the people fails them. True representation listens, acts, and stands with the community. The taps in St. Lucie may be brown, but the real drought is one of representation. The Democratic Labour Party believes that representation that works isn't afraid to face the people. Leadership is about courage, accountability, and service. The Democratic Labour Party will always fight for dignity, fairness, and the well-being of every Barbadian. Thank you to all viewers for joining us tonight. Thank you to the diaspora for tuning in. God bless you and see you on Thursday. Good night.
Good night.
We all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. Yeah, one vision, one people, one destiny. We all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. Yeah. Yeah. We all in this with Ralphie. Yeah, yeah. He crossed the floor, not for fame or glory. He crossed the floor to rewrite the story. The people vex, the country tight. Ralphie step up to set things right. From Christchurch East to St. Lucie, everybody know he stand for we. He watch them lost, line by line. Yeah. He said follow the law, not the head lady. We all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie, yeah. We all in this with Ralphie, yeah. One vision, one people, one destiny. We all in this with Ralphie. He crossed the floor to unite the country. So everybody sing in harmony. We all in this with Ralphie. Yes, we all in this with Ralphie. Hey, hey. Yes, we all in this with Ralphie. Hey, hey, hey. He said to the house, how you getting this? Watching the chaos, parliament in a twist. One member while another talk too fast. Ralphie step in makes sense last. The people laugh, they clap, they grin. Cause Ralphie sharp, he know how to win. The law and logic, he keep them tight. He bring order to the parliament fight. Hey, R-A-L-P-H-I-E. We all in this with Ralphie. R-A-L-P-H-I-E. Stand up tall for unity. Hey. He tell the PM you head the cabinet, not the state. So respect the law before it's too late. The legal business done on the floor, not in your mind behind closed door. He cool, collected, full of class. He use the facts and bust up, she bubble fast. He shaving down falsehood, clean and neat. Ralphie drop logic on every seat. Tourism built it, bill, now this new move. Free movement by imagination to prove. No legislation to pass immigration gate. Yet you telling visitors come, citizens wait. Ralphie say hold on, let's get it straight. Law before limelight, check the Monte. He watching close, the people clap. Cause Ralphie catching every trap. We all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. One vision, one people, one destiny. We all in this with Ralphie. He crossed the floor to unite the country. Now everybody sing in harmony. We all in this with Ralphie. Yes, we all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. Yes, we all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. Yes, we all in this with Ralphie. Hey, hey, hey. We all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. Hey. We all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. Hey. We all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. Hey. We all in this with Ralphie. Hey, hey, hey. When the bells start twist and spin, Ralphie stepping again. When imagination start on the stage, Ralphie pull it straight. Are you getting this? We all in this with Ralphie.